Are you struggling with data reconciliations in your business? Don't worry, I have some solutions for you. Today, I will cover three methods, and I'm sure one of them will work in your business. So let's get started. So let's start with the option one. As you can see here, we have two tables and we will want to reconcile them. So we have some details in each table, and basically what we want to do is to make sure that all transactions that are in table one also appear in table two, and all transactions that appear in table two also appear in table number one. So how we can do it is one way is just to go transaction by transaction and check whether they match. But that would take a lot of time, especially if you have a lot of transactions. So there's an easier way to do it, and I will show you how you can do it just now. So we're going to use this empty column here, and we're going to put COUNTIF, and we want to count the range of the other table, and then comma, and we want to count how many times this number appears. So now we close the bracket and we click enter. So now we can see that order 124 appears once in this table. So what we want to do now is you want to lock this area. So you do it by putting dollar signs in front of the letter and the number, or you can just press F4 and press enter, and then we can fill the rest of the table. And as you can see, order 130 and 132 have zero. So that means they do not appear in table 2. So those are our missing transactions. What I like to do, especially if there's a lot of transactions, I like to add conditional formatting. So what I would do, I would select all of the table and then click here, custom formula. And what we want is equal, and then we want to select the cell in our missing column, so that's going to be F9, and if that equals 0, we want to highlight it. But basically we want to put another dollar sign here, so then it will highlight the rows. So here I would just select some colors and done. So now we can clearly see which transactions are missing. But now we checked which transactions are missing from table 2. But now we also need to see what transactions are missing in table 2 from table 1. So we would do exactly the same. So we put COUNTIF, and now we select this area here, comma, and then our order number. And again, we want to lock this area, enter, and autofill. And again, I would just do conditional formatting. So again, we select all of the cells, then we put custom formula. And in this case, that's going to be cell L9 equals 0. And again, we want to put a dollar sign before the letter and change the formatting. And that's us. So now we can clearly see which transactions are missing from table 1 and which transactions are missing from table 2, which will help us with our reconciliation. Now it gets a little bit more tricky if we do not have something like an order number that we can easily match between the tables. So in option 2, I will show you how we can do it based on the amounts. So as you can see, again, we have two tables and we have some descriptions, amounts, and the date. So what we're going to work with today is the amounts, because as you can see, some descriptions do not match. So for example, here we have coffee mug and here we have coffee mugs. So we cannot use the same way of reconciliation as we used before because those descriptions do not match. So what we're going to do instead, we will focus on the amounts. So in this little table below here, what I want to do is to list all the amounts that are unique. So I'm going to do it by using a formula unique. And then we want to select the range and close and enter. So this basically listed for me all the unique values in here. And now I want to calculate how many times each of these values appears in our data set. So I'm going to use again the formula COUNTIF. Okay, and then we want to select our range and we want to calculate how many times the amount 50 appears. And again, because we will be dragging this formula down, I just want to lock this range and autofill. So now we can see that the amount 50 appears twice, 52 appears once, etc., etc. So then we will do the same for the table 2. So we will select these transactions. And again, we want to calculate how many times these amounts appear in table 2. So we are using again the formula COUNTIF, our range, and the value. And again, we are locking our range and autofill. Now, what I want you to understand here is that even though these 4 first transactions are correct because we have 50, 50, 55, 55, those ones are not necessarily in the right order. So if we were to calculate the difference now between how many times these amounts appear in table 2 and how many times they appear in table 1, we would have some discrepancies, but they're not necessarily correct. So we can see that amount 15 appeared once, but it's comparing it to how many times the amount 73 appeared. So what we need to do is to rearrange our table a little bit. Now, usually you can just select the amounts and drag them, but this may cause some issues in our table. So what I do instead is I select this table, I copy it, and then I paste it as values. So I right click, paste special, and values only. So now this will not mess up my formula that I used before. So now I can easily drag and drop it in the right places. And I will just to clear the data, 73 appeared 0 times. Okay, and just on that. And now I can refresh this formula here so it clears all the errors. So as you can see, issues we have here are with the amount 73 and 20. And again, if you want, you can add some conditional formatting here. So for example, if the text does not contain 0, we want to highlight it in red. And again, you can clearly see which transactions are an issue. Now there's also another option, option 3, but I would not necessarily recommend to use it if you can use either of the options above. So here we are basically just using a running total. So what we would do, we would fill this column here, and we want to see the running total for your transactions. And we can just drag it, and we will do the same here, running total. And what you would do, you can either manually compare it, or you can add a little formula here just to calculate the difference so you can spot in what point the issue starts to happen. Now, this is not ideal because it will take time and there may be some transactions that you miss, so I would definitely recommend using either of the options that I showed you above. But again, this is a way you can consider. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found some useful tips today. But if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section below. And also, if you want to learn more about accounting for small businesses, make sure to follow me on Instagram. I left a link just below this video. See you soon!